Friends, just when the Duggar family thought Josh Duggar's return was getting closer, suddenly, everything turned upside down. Do you know what happened inside the prison regarding Josh's release date? That now the whole situation has become completely mysterious. Today, I've brought you some shocking updates that may truly surprise you. While everyone was counting the days on the calendar for Josh's release, rumors suddenly started spreading that his sentence could actually be extended. Did Josh get involved in some new trouble inside the prison? Or has some secret information leaked out that is now becoming a major obstacle in the way of his release? In today's video, I'll bring you insider reports and all the latest information that you probably won't hear anywhere else. So don't miss even a second of this video, because at the very end, I'll reveal a twist that may completely change the way you see Josh's prison future. So friends, what do you think about this shocking update? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like the video if you enjoy this kind of content. Now come on, let's uncover the real story together today. For months, many Duggar family followers believed that a clear timeline had finally been established for Josh Duggar's release from federal prison. People were tracking dates, watching updates from the Bureau of Prisons, and trying to calculate exactly how much time he had left. But then, another change happened. And it immediately caught everyone's attention online. His possible release date changed again, and naturally, people began asking questions. It's actually very interesting, because whenever a release date changes in a high-profile case like this, people instantly assume that something dramatic must have happened behind the scenes. Some believe it means a new sentence. Others think it signals secret legal activity. But in reality, federal prison release dates are often much more complicated than people realize. And in Josh Duggar's case, that complexity becomes even more significant. Currently, Josh Duggar is serving a federal sentence after being convicted in 2021 on child sexual abuse material charges. He is incarcerated at the Federal Correctional Institution Seagoville, also known as FCI Seagoville. Since his sentencing, the public has closely followed every development connected to his prison life, transfers, appeals, visitation discussions, and especially his possible release date. The reason people focus so heavily on release dates is simple. A date creates a countdown. It gives both supporters and critics something specific to follow. For Anna Duggar, it may represent hope and expectation. For Josh's critics, it represents accountability and justice. Either way, every small change becomes huge news in the Duggar online community. And recently, people noticed yet another change. In April 2026, reports circulated online claiming that Josh Duggar's projected release information had changed again, according to Bureau of Prisons records. Almost immediately, speculation exploded across social media and discussion forums. Some users wondered whether he had lost good time credits. Others questioned whether there had been disciplinary issues inside the prison. A few even wondered if ongoing legal appeals somehow affected the timeline. But here's the important thing to understand: an estimated federal prison release date is exactly that, an estimate. It is not always permanently fixed years in advance. The Bureau of Prisons regularly recalculates release estimates based on different factors. That includes sentence credits, administrative reviews, policy updates, participation in prison programs, and disciplinary evaluations. In other words, The date can move forward or backward depending on how the system processes an inmate's record over time. And that's important because many people outside the legal system imagine prison like a simple countdown clock. But federal sentencing is far more administrative than emotional. Even without major public incidents, small internal adjustments can still create noticeable changes online. One major part of this discussion involves good time credits. And honestly, this is probably one of the most misunderstood parts of federal sentencing. Under federal law, prisoners can reduce part of their sentence through good behavior. These reductions are commonly known as good time credits. The idea is simple. Inmates who follow prison rules and maintain acceptable behavior can earn limited sentence reductions. However, that doesn't automatically mean large chunks of time disappear from a sentence. The Bureau of Prisons calculates these credits through a detailed administrative process. And sometimes, estimated release dates shift simply because of internal recalculations or corrections. That's why a delayed release date does not automatically mean misconduct occurred. Although, disciplinary issues absolutely can affect those credits. If an inmate breaks prison rules, they can lose previously earned good time credits. Depending on how serious the violation is, that could impact the projected release date. But unless officials publicly explain the exact reason, outside observers are often left guessing with incomplete information. And that's exactly why this case keeps generating so much online discussion. People are trying to connect scattered information, without seeing the full internal prison records. What's especially remarkable is just how emotional this case still remains after all these years. Normally, prison release calculations don't become major public conversations. But because the Duggar family spent years in reality television and public life, every development becomes part of a much larger narrative. And honestly, Anna Duggar's role in all of this continues to fascinate viewers. Ever since Josh's legal troubles and imprisonment began, there has been non-stop debate online about her loyalty. Some viewers see it as commitment to faith and marriage. Others see it very differently, questioning why she continues standing by him after everything that has happened. So when news broke that Josh's release date may have changed again, people instantly started wondering what it meant for Anna, emotionally and practically. Because regardless of public opinion, she's the one living this reality every single day. While Josh remains in prison, Anna is raising their children. She's handling family pressure, public criticism, and constant online attention. When someone becomes emotionally invested in a reunion date, even a small schedule change can suddenly feel enormous. And that's why prison sentences don't only affect inmates, they affect entire families too. In high-profile families like the Duggars, that pressure becomes even more public and intense. I think that's one reason these updates attract so much attention. People are no longer simply watching a prison sentence. They're watching the emotional collapse and rebuilding of a family that once built its public image around strict morals, faith, and family unity. And honestly, that contrast still shocks many people. For years, the Duggars presented themselves as an example of conservative family values through reality television. Millions watched shows like 19 Kids and Counting and later Counting On. Their image centered around faith, discipline, and traditional family structure. So when Josh Duggar's criminal case became public, that image suffered a massive collapse. And ever since then, Every new update has carried symbolic meaning far beyond simple prison paperwork. The discussion around release dates has also reignited debates about how federal prison laws actually work in the United States. Many online viewers admitted they never truly understood sentence reductions before following this case. Some were shocked that prisoners could reduce sentences at all. Others argued the system feels confusing and inconsistent. And honestly, that reaction makes sense. Most people learn about prisons through television and movies, not through actual federal policy. In reality, federal prisons operate through multiple layers of administrative reviews and policy calculations. Estimated dates can shift for technical reasons that aren't necessarily dramatic. Sometimes records are updated after audits or recalculations. Sometimes program credits get processed differently over time. And sometimes policy interpretations themselves change. Because prison databases are partially public, online communities notice these updates almost immediately. And that creates a strange situation, where internet users begin analyzing prison data almost like sports statistics. People compare screenshots. They debate dates. They speculate about internal prison discipline. Entire online threads are built around tiny numerical changes. And in the Duggar case, emotions make everything even more intense. Josh Duggar's critics often argue that any delay represents deserved accountability. Supportive or sympathetic viewers sometimes focus more on the emotional impact on Anna and the children. Others simply continue following the story because they watched this family for years, and still can't believe how dramatically everything changed. What's especially striking is how divided public opinion still remains. Even years after the conviction, emotions remain incredibly strong. Some viewers are completely exhausted with the Duggar saga and want the family permanently out of the spotlight. Others continue watching closely because they believe the family's public image made this story culturally significant. And honestly, this latest release date discussion has reignited all those old debates again. Another important factor here is timing. When someone is many years away from release, small date changes usually don't attract much attention. But as the sentence gets closer to ending, every adjustment suddenly feels much bigger. People stop counting years, and start counting months. And that's exactly what's happening now. As Josh Duggar gets closer to the end of his sentence, every prison-related update receives more attention than before. Psychologically, people's perception of time changes as release approaches. Families prepare emotionally. Supporters anticipate reunions. Critics worry accountability may end too soon. Even small bureaucratic updates suddenly start feeling deeply personal. And honestly, I think that emotional factor is driving a huge part of the online discussion right now. There's also the question of how the Duggar family itself is reacting privately. Behind closed doors, this delay could create frustration and emotional stress inside the family circle. Especially for Anna. For someone emotionally attached to a reunion date, even a relatively short delay can feel psychologically huge. A small calendar adjustment can affect holiday plans, travel arrangements, emotional milestones, everything. And remember, this family has already spent years dealing with public embarrassment and legal fallout. What complicates the situation even more is the Duggar family's silence. In earlier years, the family often responded publicly to controversies through interviews or statements. But since Josh's sentencing, communication has become far more cautious and limited. And that silence leaves room for endless online interpretation. People start filling in the blanks themselves. And sometimes, speculation gets mixed together with confirmed facts. That's why it's important to separate what is publicly verified from what is simply internet theory. Information about projected release dates does exist in government records. Federal policies explain how sentence reductions generally work. But unless prison officials release detailed explanations, outsiders usually cannot fully explain every change with certainty. And that uncertainty keeps the debate alive. I also think many viewers are still emotionally invested in how dramatically the Duggar family's story evolved over time. For years, audiences viewed them as a wholesome reality TV family. Then suddenly, that narrative collapsed into scandals, criminal cases, broken trust, and public controversy. And every prison update becomes another reminder of that transformation. What's especially striking is how different the Duggar story feels today compared to even 10 years ago. Back then, viewers discussed weddings, children, and family milestones. Now, conversations revolve around prison sentences, appeals, and release calculations. And honestly, that contrast alone explains why people remain fascinated by this story. The latest release date change has triggered major reactions across social media. Some users claim the change proves there were internal disciplinary problems. Others argue administrative recalculations are completely normal. Some viewers have even criticized the obsession with tracking every detail of Josh's incarceration. And to be fair, that criticism is understandable too. At this point, the conversation has become bigger than just Josh Duggar himself. It's now about why reality TV families continue receiving so much attention long after their shows end. But I think the answer is pretty simple. People become emotionally attached to families they've watched publicly for years. Viewers feel like they've watched these individuals grow up in front of them. That creates a curiosity that survives long after scandals happen, or shows disappear. The Duggar story has moved far beyond reality television. Now it sparks conversations about fame, religion, loyalty, accountability, and public image all at once. And this prison release discussion touches every one of those subjects. As for what happens next, the truth is probably less dramatic than many online theories suggest. Federal prison officials will continue managing the sentence according to federal policy. Release estimates can continue changing over time based on reviews and prison records. That doesn't necessarily mean some shocking secret situation is happening behind the scenes. But because this involves Josh Duggar, every small update becomes major public news. And honestly, that will probably continue until the day he is finally released. But for Anna Duggar, this situation likely feels less like internet drama, and more like an exhausting emotional reality. Whatever people think about her choices, she has spent years under intense public scrutiny while trying to maintain family stability during one of reality television's most talked about scandals. And a release date change probably does not reduce that pressure at all. If anything, it likely makes the waiting even harder. Ultimately, the biggest lesson here is that federal prison release dates are not always simple or permanent. Sentence calculations involve policies, credits, reviews, and administrative updates that many people don't fully understand. But because Josh Duggar is involved, the public watches every single change closely. And now, this latest release date adjustment has reignited old conversations about accountability, loyalty, family reputation, and what the Duggar legacy ultimately looks like today. So now the real question isn't only when Josh Duggar will finally leave prison. The bigger question is this: will the Duggar family ever truly escape the shadow created by this scandal? There's still more to this story, but before we continue, I just want to say one thing. No matter how busy life gets, I genuinely enjoy bringing you these updates about the Duggar family. Honestly, it feels less like making videos, and more like having a conversation with close friends. Through these small efforts, I simply hope to make your day a little more interesting and enjoyable. Because at the end of the day, your support and smiles are what motivate me to keep going. So now, let's not waste any more time and see what surprises await us next. Josh Duggar's federal prison release date has reportedly been pushed back again, according to multiple reports. Duggar, now 38 years old, is currently serving a 12-year and 7-month federal sentence at FCI Seagoville in Texas. He was sentenced in May 2022 after his conviction connected to child sexual abuse material charges in 2021. According to reports from Page 6 and Us Weekly, Josh Duggar's projected release date has now been pushed back for the third time. The reports claim his release date moved from December 23, 2032, to February 2, 2033. No official explanation was publicly provided regarding the change. However, a spokesperson from the U.S. Federal Bureau of Prisons reportedly explained that inmate release dates can increase or decrease for many reasons, including First Step Act credits, program credits, disciplinary losses of good time credits, or additional sentencing factors. Previously, Josh Duggar's release date had already changed from August 12, 2032, to October 2, 2032, and later to December 23, 2032. Josh Duggar has also made several attempts to overturn his federal conviction, but those efforts have been denied so far. More recently, he reportedly hired Chicago attorney Bo B. Brindley, who is known for handling several high-profile cases, including work connected to R. Kelly. According to federal court documents, Duggar appeared virtually during a hearing on April 15 that reportedly lasted around 2 hours. As of April 23, no decision had been announced, and no future hearing dates had been scheduled.